kids eat pasta constantly. It's Tuesday night dinner, it's the lunchbox backup plan, it's the thing you reach for when nothing else sounds good. And most families buy the same box they've always bought. Same brand, same shape, same shelf at Walmart or Kroger, without ever questioning what's actually in it. Here's what changed my view on this. In 2019, the Environmental Working Group commissioned independent laboratory tests on 5 samples of dried pasta purchased from regular grocery stores. Now, glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup weed killer, was detected in every single one of them. Not trace amounts you'd need a microscope to find. We're talking up to 150 parts per billion in certain whole grain varieties, and these weren't obscure brands. These were the boxes sitting on your shelf right now. Brand number 3 on today's list is the one most American families consider the safe, reliable choice. The evidence suggests otherwise. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you which brands showed up in that testing, what the research says about why this keeps happening, and, at the end, 3 pasta brands that are actually worth your money. Before we get into the list, you need to understand how glyphosate ends up in your pasta bowl in the first place. Because it's not an accident, and it's not rare. Glyphosate is the most widely used herbicide in the world. Most people think it's only sprayed on genetically engineered crops like corn and soybeans. But here's what they don't tell you. According to the Environmental Working Group, glyphosate is also increasingly sprayed on wheat, barley, oats, and other non-GMO crops just before harvest. The purpose is to kill the plant, drying it out so it can be harvested faster than if it died naturally. That practice is called pre-harvest application, and it means glyphosate can end up directly on the grain, including the durum wheat used to make pasta. The EWG reported that according to the National Agricultural Statistics Service, in 2017, approximately 12.4 million pounds of glyphosate were applied to wheat in the U.S. More than 58% of the acreage of durum wheat, the specific variety most commonly used to make dried pasta, was sprayed with glyphosate that year. So, when you boil a box of pasta, there is a real possibility that the wheat it was made from was sprayed with a weed killer shortly before it was harvested. That's the system, and most brands on store shelves haven't done anything to change it. As for the health debate, the World Health Organization has classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic. The EPA, on the other side, maintains that glyphosate is not likely to be carcinogenic to humans. The science is genuinely contested. What's not contested is that glyphosate is showing up in food, and that the brands on this list have done little to nothing to address that in their sourcing. That's what we're here to talk about. Let's get into it. Number 10, Harris Teeter 100% Durum Semolina Penne Rigate. This is the store brand version of pasta that markets itself on a premium-sounding claim, 100% Durum Semolina. That sounds like quality. It sounds like purity. The label is doing a lot of work. But according to EWG's 2019 independent lab test, a sample of Harris Teeter's 100% Durum Semolina Penne Rigate tested positive for glyphosate at 60 parts per billion. The 100% Durum Semolina claim refers to the type of wheat, not how that wheat was grown or what it was sprayed with before harvest. If you're reaching for this because the label sounds cleaner than the generic alternatives, that instinct is understandable, but the sourcing tells a different story. Glyphosate doesn't care what the label says. Verdict: the premium-sounding ingredient claim doesn't account for how that ingredient was farmed. And the next one is a store brand that reaches even more shoppers across the country. Number 9, Signature Select Thin Spaghetti. Signature Select is the store brand you'll find at Safeway, Albertsons, Vons, and a handful of other chains. It's the value pick. the no-frills option, the pasta you grab when you just need dinner. BWG's 2019 lab test found glyphosate in a sample of Signature Select Thin Spaghetti at 120 parts per billion, double the level found in the Harris Teeter sample. For a product positioned as a budget essential, that's a meaningful finding. Store-brand pasta typically comes from the same commodity wheat supply as name brands. There is little incentive at that price point to source from farms using different practices. The label offers no transparency about sourcing, farming methods, or third-party testing. Bottom line, affordable is not the same as clean. The price point doesn't protect you here. Up next, a brand that markets itself on whole grain health benefits. You'll want to hear this one. Number 8, Muller's Pen. Muller's is one of the oldest pasta brands in America. It's in virtually every grocery store. The blue and yellow box is as recognizable as pasta packaging gets. Families have been buying it for generations. And that familiarity creates trust that the product doesn't necessarily earn. EWG's 2019 lab test found glyphosate in a sample of Muller's Pen at 60 parts per billion. That puts it at the lower end of the tested pasta samples, but it's still tested positive. And for a brand that trades on decades of American kitchen tradition, the fact that it hasn't moved toward cleaner sourcing is a meaningful statement about priorities. There's no third-party certification on the label. No transparency about farming practices, no organic sourcing, just a familiar box and a price that makes you feel like you're being responsible with your grocery budget. Verdict: the legacy branding earns loyalty that the sourcing hasn't kept up with. Comment below. What pasta brand does your family buy most? Walmart store brand? Muller's? Barilla? I'm curious what you're seeing on shelves where you shop. Number 7, Muller's 100% whole grain penny. This one stings a little because it's the version you buy when you're trying to do better. You've made the switch. You're buying the whole grain option. You're paying a bit more because whole grain means more fiber, more nutrition, a more mindful choice. But EWG's 2019 lab tests found glyphosate in a sample of Muller's 100% whole grain penny at 150 parts per billion, the highest level detected in any of the pasta products tested in that study, higher than the regular Muller's penny, higher than every other pasta in the test. Here's why that matters. Whole grain pasta uses the entire wheat kernel, including the bran and germ. If glyphosate is applied to the crop before harvest, the whole grain version may retain more of that residue than refined pasta made from just the endosperm. Choosing whole grain for health reasons is sound thinking, but it doesn't help if the wheat itself was heavily sprayed. And the label says whole grain. It doesn't say anything about how that grain was grown. Bottom line, upgrading to whole grain doesn't automatically mean upgrading to cleaner. These are two separate decisions. The next brand is the one you'll find at every Costco, every Target, every Kroger from Maine to California. Number 6, Barilla Whole Grain Rotini. Barilla is the best-selling pasta brand in the United States. It's the default. And when someone says pasta, there's a decent chance they picture a blue Barilla box. And like Muller's, Barilla makes a whole grain line that health-conscious shoppers tend to reach for. EWG's 2019 independent lab test found glyphosate in a sample of Barilla whole grain rotini at 130 parts per billion. That puts it among the higher testing samples in the study, second only to Muller's 100% whole grain penny. Barilla is a major company with enormous purchasing power. It sources wheat from farms across multiple countries and states. The scale of its supply chain makes accountability for pesticide application difficult, and the company has not publicly committed to glyphosate-free sourcing as of what the testing and reporting indicates. What's frustrating is that Barilla markets itself as a quality product. It's not the cheapest pasta on the shelf. You're paying for a name, for Italian heritage branding, for the blue box that implies a certain standard. The test results suggest that standard doesn't extend to what happens on the farm. The whole grain health halo is doing the marketing. The sourcing is doing something else entirely. Verdict: the most popular pasta in America is also among the most tested, and the results aren't reassuring. And that brings us to the top 5. These are the brands that either have the widest reach, the most misleading labels, or both. Pause right now and check your pantry. Do you have any of these boxes at home? Comment "Found it" if you do. Number 5. Great Value, Walmart store brand. Great Value pasta is what millions of families reach for because it's the cheapest option on the shelf. At Walmart, it's essentially always in stock, always $1 or $2 cheaper than anything next to it, and the box looks clean and simple. No fuss. But here's the problem with the cheapest option in a market where commodity wheat is routinely sprayed with glyphosate before harvest. There is no indication that Great Value pasta sources its wheat any differently than the tested brands above. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, as cited by EWG, found glyphosate in 80% of dried pasta samples tested. That's a broad category finding that encompasses exactly the kind of commodity-sourced pasta a store brand like Great Value would use. That there is no third-party certification, no organic claim, no transparency about farming practices, and at that price point, there is no economic incentive for the supply chain to change. Verdict: the price is the appeal. The sourcing is the concern. Number 4. Ronzoni. Ronzoni is another long-standing American pasta brand. The red and white box that's been in grocery stores for over 100 years. It recently changed ownership, but the brand still sits in the trusted classic category in most shoppers' minds. While Ronzoni was not among the specific products tested in EWG's 2019 pasta study, the EWG and Canadian Food Inspection Agency data both point to a category-wide problem. The vast majority of conventional dried pasta is made from commodity durum wheat, and EWG reported that more than 58% of durum wheat acreage in the U.S. was sprayed with glyphosate in 2017. Ronzoni has not publicized commitments to glyphosate-free sourcing or third-party certification. Uncertain. Ronzoni not individually tested in cited sources. The category data creates a reasonable concern, even for brands not specifically named. Verdict: the classic branding gives comfort that the supply chain doesn't back up. Number 3, Kraft mac and cheese, the pasta component. This one's in almost every home with kids. The blue box, the powdered cheese, it's a staple, a comfort food, an emergency meal solution. Families don't think of it as something that needs scrutiny, but the pasta in Kraft mac and cheese is conventional wheat pasta, the same commodity supply chain as everything else on this list. EWG has flagged that glyphosate contamination is widespread across wheat-based products broadly, and a 2019 Friends of the Earth study cited by EWG found glyphosate in every sample of oat products tested across major brands. While Kraft mac and cheese pasta specifically was not among EWG's tested pasta samples, the wheat sourcing dynamics apply equally to any conventional pasta product. Uncertain. Kraft pasta not individually tested in cited sources. What makes it particularly worth flagging here is the audience. Kids. EWG has specifically noted that glyphosate should not be found in food, especially those frequently consumed by children. This is the food most frequently consumed by children. The bottom line, if you're cooking this for your kids weekly, the sourcing question is worth asking. Number 2, store brand healthy or whole wheat pasta lines at Kroger, Aldi, and similar chains. This is the category that frustrates me most. Because it's where people are actively trying to make a better choice, and the label is designed to make them feel like they have. Aldi's own brand pasta, Kroger's Simple Truth line, Hamomvo en Fash, Chip Kurinis, store brand whole wheat pastas across the board. None of these have publicly committed to glyphosate-free sourcing. And as the EWG data shows, whole grain and whole wheat pasta may actually retain more glyphosate residue than refined pasta because the full kernel is used. EWG found the highest glyphosate levels in the whole grain pasta samples it tested. The words whole grain, whole wheat, and natural on a pasta label tell you about the type of wheat used. They say nothing about how that wheat was farmed or what it was sprayed with. Verdict: the health-forward label is not a sourcing guarantee. These two things are completely separate. And number one, the brand that combines the widest consumer trust with the highest tested glyphosate levels in the EWG's pasta study. Number one, Barilla Standard Pasta Lines, conventional, non-whole grain. We already talked about Barilla's whole grain line. But the conventional Barilla lineup, the pasta most shoppers buy, deserves its own spot at the top of this list because of what it represents. Barilla is not just a pasta brand. For millions of American families, it is the definition of what pasta is supposed to be. The blue box is shorthand for quality, Italian heritage, a product that's been vetted by time and popularity. Parents buy it. Grandparents bought it before them. It's in the school cafeteria and the church potluck and the family dinner rotation. The EWG 2019 testing found glyphosate in Barilla's whole grain variety at 130 parts per billion. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency data, as cited by EWG, found glyphosate in 80% of dried pasta samples, a category Barilla dominates. The EWG reporting also noted that more than 58% of durum wheat acreage was sprayed with glyphosate in the US. So as of 2017, and Barilla's conventional pasta is made from that same durum wheat supply. Most importantly, Barilla's scale means it has more leverage than almost any other pasta company to demand cleaner sourcing from its wheat suppliers. It hasn't done that in any way that's reflected in independent testing or public certification commitments. The blue box is the most trusted pasta in America. That trust hasn't been earned at the farm level. The bottom line, market dominance and consumer trust are not quality certifications. All right, let's talk about what to actually buy. The good news, these options exist. They're increasingly available at major retailers, and the rules for finding them are simple. Safe. Pick number 1, Jovial Foods, 100%. Organic einkorn pasta. Jovial uses einkorn wheat, an ancient grain variety, and is certified USDA organic. Organic certification means the wheat cannot be grown with synthetic herbicides, including glyphosate. That's not a marketing claim. It's a legally enforced standard with third-party verification. Jovial is also transparent about its sourcing, and einkorn has a naturally lower gluten content than modern durum wheat, which some people find easier to digest. One honest drawback: it's more expensive, and it's not at every Walmart. You'll find it at Whole Foods, specialty grocers, and online. The texture is slightly different from conventional pasta, nuttier, chewier. Most people who try it don't go back. Buying rule: look for USDA organic on the label. That certification is the baseline minimum for avoiding glyphosate in your pasta. Safe pick number 2, Banza chickpea pasta. Banza makes pasta from chickpeas, not wheat. That matters here because chickpeas are not the same commodity grain as durum wheat, and Banza uses a more controlled, non-conventional supply chain. Chickpea-based pasta sidesteps the entire durum wheat glyphosate problem. On top of that, chickpea pasta has more protein and fiber than conventional wheat pasta. legitimately, not just through marketing. It's widely available now at Target, Walmart, Costco, and most major grocery chains. One honest drawback: the texture is different. It's softer and overcooks quickly. But for a dish that's getting a sauce on top, most people adapt within a week. Buying rule: look for chickpea flour as the first ingredient. Does some pasta brands use a blend? Chickpea forward is what you want. Safe pick number 3, Delalo 100% whole wheat organic pasta. Delalo's organic whole wheat line carries USDA organic certification, meaning the wheat must be grown without synthetic pesticides. This is the closest to a conventional pasta experience. Same shapes, same texture profile, same use cases, with the organic sourcing standard backing it up. It's available at many Kroger locations, online, and at specialty grocers. Not as widely distributed as Barilla, but increasingly common. One honest drawback: it's more expensive per ounce than conventional pasta. That's real. Organic wheat sourcing costs more than commodity wheat, but you're paying for the actual guarantee the label implies. Buying rule: USDA organic on the front of the box, not natural, not made with whole grains. The certified organic seal. Here's your fast framework for buying pasta going forward. Look for USDA organic certification first. That's the one standard that legally prohibits glyphosate use on the wheat. If the label says whole grain or whole wheat, but isn't organic, be skeptical. Whole grain pasta may retain more residue, not less, if the wheat was sprayed. Natural means nothing on a pasta box. It's not a regulated term. Any brand can use it. If the first ingredient is a non-wheat base, chickpeas, lentils, rice, you're in a different supply chain entirely. That's worth something. Store-brand pasta at major chains almost always uses commodity wheat with no sourcing transparency. Cheap price, low accountability. If a brand has third-party glyphosate residue-free certification from an organization like the Detox Project, that's the gold standard. It's rare in pasta, but worth looking for. And if you're cooking for kids regularly, this decision is worth the extra $1 or $2 per box. Glyphosate should not be found in food. We and EWG has specifically flagged that concern for children's foods. Comment below and tell me what store you do your pasta shopping at. Walmart, Costco, Aldi, Kroger? I want to know what organic or cleaner options people are actually finding on shelves near them. Here's the one thing I want you to walk away with. Glyphosate in pasta isn't a fringe concern from the internet. It comes from independent lab testing commissioned by the Environmental Working Group in 2019, and from Canadian government testing that found glyphosate in 80% of dried pasta samples. The brands on this list aren't all equal in terms of evidence. Some were directly tested, others fall under the category-wide data. But the pattern is consistent enough that the default "just grab the blue box" approach deserves a second look. The fix is not complicated. USDA organic pasta exists at multiple price points and is increasingly available at mainstream stores. You don't have to shop at a specialty market or spend a fortune. You just have to read the label differently than you have been. If this was useful, subscribe, because tomorrow I'm looking at bottled pasta sauces, where the sugar content and preservative situation is just as surprising as what we covered today. And drop a comment. Did any of these brands surprise you? Or is there a brand you've already switched to that you'd recommend? Let me know below.